Despite the very real and shocking scenes we saw in a murder-suicide over the weekend, domestic violence is often much less obvious.
But that's not stopping people who counsel families through domestic violence from helping us understand. We all have a role to play in preventing it. McKenna Alexander shares how we can compassionately identify victims and what you can do to help. McKenna?
Yeah, during a press conference yesterday to share details about a man murdering his wife before taking his own life on the freeway, Madison police made sure to include people who are able to speak on domestic violence in our community. Now, I spoke with another counselor today who explained why that was an important step in preventing future tragedies. As MPD continues investigating a very public example of domestic violence at a home where they'd never been called before, counselors say that part isn't uncommon.
It's actually more typical that there aren't priors because a lot of times there aren't telling indicators or signs that something might be going on. And so that's why it's so important for us to get the word out and people understand the resources. Domestic Abuse Intervention Services, or DAYS, is just one of the local resources available in southern Wisconsin. DAYS Executive Director Shannon Berry says sometimes it's tough to know what domestic violence actually looks like and when you should speak up.
Domestic violence, unfortunately, continues to really be a stigmatizing issue for many folks. We also know that domestic violence impacts 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men at some point in their lifetime. So the reality is that it's very common in every community, but even here in Dane County.
Berry referenced federal statistics that show less than a quarter of domestic violence is ever reported to law enforcement, meaning a majority of survivors rely on informal networks of support, such as friends, family, or a community-based program like DAYS.
We get a lot of calls on our 24-hour helpline from folks who are worried about someone in their life.
If you're concerned about someone you know, Berry says to watch for changes in someone's typical behavior and take note if they appear anxious or withdrawn, especially around a partner. And when it comes to preventing another tragedy like what happened on Sunday, Berry says the best thing our community can do is realize anyone, anywhere can be a victim of domestic violence.
For many folks in the community, they may seem surprised when these kinds of things happen because it may not seem like that person or that family was potentially at risk, but the reality is it can really happen to anyone.
Again, Madison's Domestic Abuse Intervention Service is available 24/7 to provide confidential help to anyone that is or has been a victim of domestic violence. The number to call is on your screen.